Welcome to a new video. Today I am back on the bank and I'm doing something quite controversial today. Yes, I am doing some drone fishing. What do I mean by that? Well, it is what it is. I'm fishing with a drone. Not literally, I'm not going to be actually using a drone to try and catch a fish as such, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to fly the drone over the lake. I'm going to use it to try and locate the fish and then hopefully get in where I've seen them and try and put one on the bank. Now, I know it's a bit of a controversial topic, drones. Now, it's a bit like the bait boat debate, you know, some people love them, some people hate them. I guess there's a few on the fence, not too sure, but there's always going to be an opinion out there, and I thought, you know what, it's an interesting topic. I've only got a chance to get out and do a few hours today, so I thought I'd do something totally different. I've come up to a local lake, there's no one here, so I'm not going to bother anyone, I'm not in anyone's way, and I'm not going to annoy anyone flying a drone. It's also very much out of the way in the country, and there's no one around that's going to sort of be annoyed by the drone flying about. But I've actually got on the dam, so I've got a really nice line of sight straight down the lake. That way I can see the drone, I can keep my eye on it, I know exactly where it's going, and hopefully fly it around, see if I can locate some fish, and then maybe move around to that area, put some rods out and see if we can catch one. Now, if you do use a drone, always make sure you've got permission, always make sure your drone's registered, you've got your operator ID and your flyer ID. You do need those to use them in the UK, even if you're doing it as a hobby, just to keep yourself legit if anyone does ever question you or you get stopped. Now, if you're using a drone under 250 grams, you can pretty much fly it anywhere. There are a couple of exceptions, one of them being restricted airspace, but that's not very common, to be honest. Tends to be around airports and things like that. So generally speaking, you can pretty much fly them everywhere. If you're on private land, you do need permission of the owner, ideally, but if you're in public areas, you can pretty much fly them anywhere you want. So anyway, I'm going to send the drone up into the sky and see if we can find some fish. Let's crack on. And we have takeoff. There she is. Right, let's send her up. Let's see what we can find. Right, so at the moment, she is right over my head. And what I'm going to do is send her out across the lake. So I'm just angling it at the moment so that I've kind of got it quite squared off. I'm then going to go up to a decent height. Now you can fly a drone up to 120 meters. Depending on where you are, but that's kind of your max really, and that's due to airspace. It keeps you below the sort of general flight path of any aircraft. They do go a lot higher, but you're obviously not allowed to do that. You do have to have special permission. So I'm now up really high. I don't know where you can see that, but I'm literally over the top of the lake. I'm literally just going to fly over the lake like this and see if I can see anything. Ooh, what is that there? Was that ducks? I believe that is 2 ducks. It is. I can zoom in there so I can see, you can actually see the reflection of the drone. That is 2 ducks on the surface. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lower it down a bit. And see if I can see anything swimming about. Well, there you go actually. Is that a fish there? Yeah, that's some fish there. There you go. Look at that. There's some fish there out in the middle. Now, you would not see that from the bank. That is pretty cool. So, I mean, in terms of location, as you can see, it does show you what you would normally not see. There's quite a few fish out there actually. There's a nice little pod of them. If I zoom it out, that's kind of the max zoom out. There you go, there's a lovely little pod of fish there. And to be honest, that is actually out in the area I would expect them to be, really. How cool was that footage? I really enjoyed doing that. Now, today was not planned, to be honest. I actually come up to the lake to do a bit of fishing for a few hours. And because no one was here, I just thought to myself, I've got the drone because I was going to use it to get a bit of footage. I just thought, why not just fly it across the lake and see what I can find fish-wise and use it for a location device, basically. Now, I wouldn't normally do that. I do go on about location a lot. It's very important. One of the most important things in fishing. If you're not on fish, you're not going to catch them. But normally I would use my eyes and my watercraft, and I would always recommend that. I would never recommend using a drone in the UK. It's not really needed, but for entertainment purposes for you guys, I thought, why not fly it around, see what I can find and make a little bit of a different video. So that's what I've done. Now, I've said it already, but there is no one on the lake fishing today. There's no one around. I'm not bothering anyone. And that's the only reason I've done it. I wouldn't normally do it. And I don't think they're needed in the UK, really. Most lakes in the UK are too small to really get much of an advantage from using a drone. I think they're great in Europe when you're fishing big waters, especially like big European sort of public venues. Definitely think they're an edge there. But in the UK, I don't think they're really needed. They are definitely just a sort of filming tool, really. But for something different, that's why I've done it. So anyway, I found a couple of pockets of fish. And I was really surprised they were actually up in the water. I thought they'd be on the deck today getting their heads down because it's mild, it's wet, there's a bit of a wind on. I thought, got to be good for a fish on the bottom. But actually there was quite a few fish in the upper layers, which was really, really surprising. So that is definitely something that I wasn't expecting to see. So with that in mind, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around to where those fish were showing, and I am going to fire out a few mixers, well, floating pellets, and just see if anything shows any interest. If it does, I might try and get them on the top. If it doesn't, I will go back to my normal tactic, which is fishing on the bottom with a few boardies. So anyway, let's crack on and let's see if we can catch a fish with the drone. I've been feeding in a few floating pellets just to see if the fish show any interest, and there's been a few out there, taking a couple. They've not been going absolutely crazy for it, but they are showing a bit of interest. Like I said, the weather today is probably better really from the bottom, but because I saw so many fish on the drone in the upper layers, kind of seems silly to ignore it. So, oh, there we go, there's one. Looks like he's Pac-Man-ing a bit. Not sure if there's some bream out there as well. There's the bream do love it on the top in here. Not quite sure why, but you do seem to get quite a lot of bream on the top. There's definitely a carp out there. That one's a carp. Sounds like it as well. We're getting a lot of the old carp slurping noises at the moment, which is good to see. Well, all the kit is under the brolly. We've been getting quite a bit of rain, which is quite frustrating. But I have introduced a few floating pellets, and the fish have shown a bit of interest in them. They've not been on them like crazy, but they have been picking a few off. So I'm going to keep introducing some floating pellets, and hopefully we can get a bit of a sort of competitive response from the fish out there, and maybe get them going enough to make it worth trying to have a go for them. But if I don't, I'm going to just put a couple of bottom baits and see if we can get a fish off the bottom like I normally would. Right, I've made up a floater rod and put on a little trim down bug pop up. And I've got one of the Nash bolt floats on there. Now hopefully that pop up's going to imitate the freebies. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just shove this out to where I've been feeding them. I'll bring it back in line a little bit. Right, gonna lay it down. And then I feed a few mixers around it and see if we can get something to happen. Go on! The floater rod has done the biz. I was actually starting to pack the gear down because it didn't feel like it was going to happen. The fish were really on the floating pellets, but my presentation, if I'm quite honest, was just not doing it. They were basically just ignoring the presentation, which I think is probably because the hook link's a bit too heavy. I'm kind of using like my big fish tactics today. I had like 12-pound floater line, which is too heavy on these kind of venues, and I was using sort of size 8 hooks, and I think the only reason I've had a bite now is because the light levels are going, and so the fish hasn't been able to see it so easily. Oh, the float's all tangled up. What's going on there? That's not good. Somewhat's tangled. Got ourselves a little common. Well, today's video hasn't really gone to plan, but it's nice to actually have a bite, if I'm quite honest. So, although the video's not gone very well, it's nice to have had a fish. Oh, there we go. See if we can unhook you easy. Just nicked in there. Okay. Oh, let's let him go. Cheers, mate. Right, well, we're back at the van, the kit is loaded up and it is time to hit the road. Unfortunately, the day soon passed, or the few hours that I was fishing soon passed, and it got dark very quick. That's the problem nowadays. The days are getting shorter and the nights are drawing in, and to be fair, with all that bad weather and that overcast rain and cloud, it got dark even faster. So, you know, I maybe had about an hour and a half fishing. It went really quick after doing all the drone work and obviously doing a little bit of stuff on camera and that. Yeah, it flew by. So I had quite a few aborted takes, if I'm honest. I should have been using a much lighter setup, a much lighter hook link for sure. I was using like 12-pound floater line, way too heavy. The fish were seeing it. They weren't massive fish and they were definitely doing me nearly every time, but as that light went and faded, they obviously couldn't see it as easy, and I managed to nail one right at the death of the session. I was literally packing the kit down, had it lead on the ground, and that bolt float did its job and hooked up with that 5 or 6 pounder. But it was nice to finally have one and actually get a result off of the effort of using the drone. But hopefully it just shows you guys that, you know, in a way they're good and they offer a great perspective, but it doesn't mean you're going to catch. It doesn't really put everything in your favor. It might help here and there, but it's just nice bit of entertainment, I think. And I think it was a really different way of filming a video and starting off a session and sort of trying to find them and just seeing what happened, really. So yeah, it's a shame I didn't have longer, but what I think I'll do is maybe try and do another session like it in the future, and maybe in the winter. I think it'd be quite good when the fish are maybe more shoaled up in the upper layers. Maybe try and look at doing it with zig fishing or something like that, and just try it on maybe a different venue, who knows. But anyway, hopefully you enjoyed it. If you have, smash the subscribe button. If you are new to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, show it some love, and until next time, get out on the bank, enjoy your fishing, and I'll see you next Tuesday at 6:30 for another upload. Until then, I'll be seeing ya.